Alright, so in this video I got something a little bit different for you. This is kind of almost like a comparison video between some different build types. Now, before I do that, I need to pull something out of the stash that I didn't really think I would ever touch. Now, I got this in the DZ probably like a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, sometime right around the launch of Warlords of New York. It was one of the earlier pieces that I got and went into the stash because, well, I didn't touch it because I don't use that. And what I'm referring to is Perfect Clutch. Now, this is on the Devil's Due Cheska Varoba backpack, and it's not really the greatest of rolls, but it was still an interesting enough piece at the time that I was like, you know what, I'll keep it just in case. Now, obviously, I get the crit chance, and that's always good for, Clutch, but it still kind of remains to be seen, is Clutch really that useful? I know, since they changed Clutch, a lot of people just really don't want to touch it, they don't want to use it, so I really kind of had this interesting idea for the build, and I really wanted to see if it was going to work out for me. Now, before I get into that, I do need to talk about something that's pretty important. I did end up making a mistake on my last video. I edited it out, so you might not have seen it, or maybe you just left the video before you even got to that part, but it is a very important thing to address. Now, I got a comment on that video saying that I was wrong in my math calculations, and of course, I take those things very serious because I want to offer you guys the best information possible, and I don't really care if I'm wrong. I mean, I don't want to be wrong, but I don't care about admitting my mistakes if I did something and, it has bad effects on you. So what I ended up saying was that if you, basically just add up the striker stacks, that's how you determine how much amplified damage you're going to get. So if you have 50 stacks and you're getting, 0.5% amplified damage per stack, with a basic 4-piece, you're going to get 25% amplified damage. And I said that if you, max it out with all of the pieces, so chest, backpack, and 2 others, you're going to get 65% amplified damage. Well, this isn't true. It's because each individual stack with a striker stack is multiplicative of itself. So if you have 50 stacks from just the basic 4-piece, you're not just going to be getting 25% amplified damage, you're actually going to be getting something closer to 28% amplified damage. And if you use, the backpack with that, you're not going to be getting like 32.5 is what I said, because I said that it gives you 7.5% more amplified damage. Well, since it's, again, multiplicative, and you're increasing the actual value of each multiplicative bonus, you're going to be getting somewhere closer to 38% amplified damage. And of course, this just accelerates the more stacks that you can get and the more damage that you can get. So if you have the chest piece on, you can get, somewhere close to like 64.2, I think, somewhere around 64% amplified damage with 100 stacks versus what I said was 50. And then, of course, if you add the backpack and the chest piece, which is actually, now that I think about it, is a much better combination, because before, just getting that 15%, like I said, wasn't really that good. There's better talents, but at 100 stacks, you're actually getting closer to 90% amplified damage. So with the chest piece, the backpack, and 2 others, you can top out at 90% amplified damage, which is huge. I mean, that's a lot of extra damage, and it is actually better than some of the other combinations out there. So if you do plan on getting that max stack bonus, and you do want the best amount of damage from that, and you can build up those stacks really quickly and really effectively, that backpack does actually have a lot of value to it. I mean, 90% amplified damage, quickly buffing those stacks, or quickly getting those stacks with, that automatic shotgun, ACS-12, I think that's, yeah, ACS-12, or, one of the other really high rate of fire, like SMGs or something like that. Yes, that can be incredibly huge for you. So, again, I'm sorry if I, confuse anyone, or if I'm sorry if I, made it, anyone saw that mistake, but that is the correct information. So hopefully you can use that to better your builds, or at least, rethink some things that maybe you too were also incorrectly thinking. All right, now back to this build that I'm kind of like theory crafting, or at least testing out, or just, playing with. It's going to be based on Striker, with obviously Cheska Varoba Perfect Clutch, and I figured I'd throw on the Contractor's Gloves. Obviously, that just gives me that extra damage to armor and stuff like that. But I was kind of thinking about something with Clutch. And the biggest problem that I have with Clutch is not really the SMGs or any of that, stuff. Now, obviously, SMGs come with crit chance, and that's great for a Clutch build. Obviously, you want the max crit chance that you can get. That's just where you want to start. You want to start at 60% crit and then figure everything else out. One of the problems that I have with SMGs is the fact that you just can't keep shooting. Obviously, with clutch, if you get into a bad situation with clutch, you really want to just keep shooting. You have to. That's your whole source of getting life back, is constantly getting crits. So I figured if I switched it up, kind of ignored I should be running a super rate of fire SMG and just kind of, suck it up and reload all the time. I was just thinking, well, wouldn't it be even better if I ran it with the Bullet King? And obviously I have a perfect, setup here. I got the Cheska Robot backpack. I've got Contractor's gloves, an LMG that's fast firing, low damage, and basically just, all sustain. I don't have to stop. That would be a really good combination, right? And then, of course, what I was talking about yesterday, now, do have to kind of, I don't want to reevaluate, but I do want to clarify. I said you don't need all red rolls if you're, running Striker. And it's true, you don't. Like I said, this is kind of like me testing things out. In a perfect world, I would kind of want to have more blues. But I'm going into this with the Bullet King. Now, the main reason people don't use the Bullet King is because the damage on it, at least the burst damage, is pretty terrible. Now, it does cover or make up some ground with the fact that you don't have to reload and stop firing, but that damage that it does put out is pretty low. It's pretty bad. Most people kind of turn off, from the Bullet King because of that. I can use that to my advantage because it is low damage. I'm not going to be dropping enemies super quickly, so I can build stacks that way. And so again, since it is low damage, I can invest into more red rolls to get that longer sustained ability from clutch. And so when you think about it that way, this would probably be one of the few times that, more reds on a heroic Striker build would probably work, just because, again, the weapon is so low damage, and I want, try to get more out of clutch by increasing the length that I can actually get to 100%. Now, if you didn't actually know, one thing that's kind of a point of confusion with clutch, there's kind of like two activations for clutch. All right, the first one is whenever you drop below a certain armor percentage. So if you have regular clutch, it's 15%. If you have perfect clutch, it's 20%. When you drop below that in your armor, you'll start being able to heal from critical hits. So as soon as you get dropped, so let's say you get your armor broken, you have no armor, and then you start shooting an enemy with a bunch of crits, you're going to repair your armor up to 15 or 20%. Now, if you then get a kill, you get a special clutch that activates basically from 4 to 10 seconds, and that depends on how many red rolls you have. So if you have 6 red rolls, you're going to get a 10-second clutch activation. If you have no red rolls and you just have all blue, you're going to only get a 4-second clutch activation. Now, when clutch is activated, what's going to end up happening is all of the crits that you get will heal you. So instead of just being capped out at 20, you can theoretically fully heal yourself to 100% armor. Now, of course, obviously that's better said than done, just because of the way that it kind of has diminishing returns as you heal more armor. But that's how it works in general. So you get a kill, and then you get the ability to fully repair your armor from crits. And then, of course, that activation turns off until you get another kill. So, if you're kind of like speeding through it with an all-red build, you can kind of chain from kill to kill to kill and not have too much problem. And again, because the Bullet King is so low damage, I can still build stacks while getting a really fast-firing, LMG. And then, of course, that gets the most out of my Contractor's gloves. But I also don't have to reload. So if I'm fighting something that's big and heavy, I'm not having to stop and reload. I can just keep, unloading into them. Now, of course, that does create some risky situations where people think clutch is just going to be a magic source of never dying, which isn't true. If you play like a risky idiot, if there is too much risk. I would say that playing with clutch is sustainable. It's a good thing to be using, but you do still have to be careful. You do gain the ability to berserk a little bit more. You do gain the ability to kind of push out, play a little bit more risky in your face playstyle, but it doesn't mean that you can't get killed. Now, I did choose to go with the gunner specialization with this build, and that is mostly because just the armor on kill, 10% armor on kill, and then the supply line talent, which gives you 10% of your total ammo capacity every 60 seconds. So, you get the ability to refresh some of your ammo, or at least regain some of your ammo for every 100 shots that hit an enemy with the Bullet King, which is good. You get the ability to, just generate 10% ammo every 60 seconds, which isn't huge, but it's still good for this type of build in case, you're just spraying bullets nonstop, which you can do with the Bullet King, obviously. Now, I think that's probably a well-known combination at this point. I'm not rewriting the book, anything here. But I do have to admit that, a lot of the other options just don't really make sense. I mean, I'm not going to use Firewall because obviously that's reliant on that shield for the buff, and you don't use the shield with an LMG. So there's not really too much selection outside of, just picking Gunner. Obviously, Tactician, if you wanted to have that skill tier, but, it really just depends on what you're using. Now, of course, I went into my favorite testing area, which is the Washington Hotel. This is pretty much my favorite area to test most builds on, just because there's, a variety of different scenarios there. And I don't know, I like testing on that mission. Testing on some of the other missions just kind of like makes me cringe. I don't want to run them. I don't want to touch them. This one, for some reason, I don't mind doing it. If, obviously we all have our preferences. I just like to test on this mission. Just kind of keeps everything the same, right? If I keep testing on the same mission, then I kind of know where the strength or weaknesses of a build might be. I can kind of gauge things in a similar manner than if I just started, randomly going all over the place. But overall, I was actually pretty happy with the build. The one thing that I obviously noticed is that the armor on the build is weak. And of course, Clutch has kind of a couple different criteria. You want high RPM, you want max crit chance, you want a large magazine capacity, you want to have weapon damage rolls, because again, that increases the length of the duration that you can go up to 100%. But you also want to make sure that you have armor to actually regenerate. Now, of course, that armor regeneration is a flat 2.5% per crit. And of course, that scales based on how much armor you're actually missing. But the more armor that you have, the larger that heal actually is. So again, if you're trying to build stacks, you want less damage. Even with the Bullet King, I think I was still putting out a little bit too much damage, and I could definitely safely invest into some armor. And I also want to have Clutch repairing some sizable armor. So yeah, if I could do anything, I'm probably going to have to farm this, change up some of these pieces, and get more armor on this build. Now, of course, that's easier said than done, getting a max rolled crit chance striker piece and then being able to roll armor on it can be a little bit of a annoying thing to farm for. But if I was going to do it, that's kind of the direction I think would be more beneficial for me, at least. Again, as a solo player, I think that'd be beneficial for me. If I was in a team build, I might just only need the armor, and probably, I don't even know if I'd need Clutch if I was in a team build. But, that's obviously a different topic. Now, because I didn't have the armor rolls, and that's kind of really what I wanted to test, I was looking for some other options. And thankfully, I have Hunter's Fury with some good armor rolls on them. Now, you may be thinking, like, well, how are you going to do with Hunter's Fury and an LMG? Look, the 2-piece bonus is okay. I mean, 15% SMG damage if you're using an SMG is not bad. But it's not necessary. It's not like the end of a world buff that if you don't get it, you're not going to be able to kill things. No, the things that I'm actually after on Hunter's Fury are that armor on kill, that health on kill, and, of course, Apex Predator. Now, this will allow me to actually rush up to things and, kind of tank them because I'm getting that buff. Now, of course, I don't activate the 4-piece unless I'm within the, the 15 meters. But if I am within those 15 meters, and since I am using Clutch, it's a little bit easier to do that. I am getting that amplified damage bonus of 20%. And of course, I'm also going to get those amplified damage stacks when I kill an enemy. And then I'm also going to get that nice little disorient to any enemies that are around them. So combine that with Bullet King and Clutch, I think that really provides a great opportunity. Obviously, I don't have to stop firing. I'm getting heals on my crits. I'm getting heals on my kills. I'm getting that disorient to stop the enemies from shooting at me, and, just kind of rinse and repeat. It seems like a really great thing. Now, overall, I would say that the damage is very similar to Striker. I am, of course, investing into more blues for more armor to give my, clutch a little bit more to work with. But overall, if I'm at max stacks with my Hunter's Fury, the damage is remarkably similar to a max stack Striker build. So in that department, it really just depends. You're going to get higher DPS with the Striker just because of the increased rate of fire, and I think it's might be a little bit easier to control Bullet King with the weapon handling, but I couldn't really tell. With Hunter's Fury, obviously I'm not gaining the 2-piece, but I am getting more sustainability because I am getting that armor on kill, that health on kill, and I'm actually causing those status effects. So it's really kind of a toss-up for you. The Hunter's Fury is riskier because I do have to be closer, but it does provide a little bit more depth, whereas the Striker, I do have the ability to stay away from the enemy. I don't need to be, right up next to him. I can be, 20, 30 meters away and still build those stacks. But honestly, it's not really a difficult choice to make because the slots work perfectly. I mean, if you have those 4 Hunter pieces, if you have those 4 Striker pieces, you can just plug and play. I mean, it's the same build just with a different gear set, and it works perfectly fine for both those builds. And actually, it might even work for True Patriot too. I'm thinking about it, because obviously you get the enemy, or you reduce the enemy's damage, and then you gain some regen when you shoot those enemies, and you're doing low damage, so you can shoot them a bunch. Yeah, that might work. Who knows? But anyway, guys, thank you for watching this video. I hope you got something out of it. I will see you in the next one.